the cloud. All right, starting over. Thank you everyone for coming here today. You guys are here for the Liberation and Healing from Systemic and Internalized Racism RFP open house session. Thank you for being here. It's formerly known as the Trauma-Informed and Restorative Practices strategy, but we've since changed it because we wanted to make it more strength-based. And so thank you all for coming here today. I am Julia Yen. I'm the program coordinator. I work alongside Yolanda McGee here. She is the program manager. So we are the duo team managing this strategy / program area. And so I will give it to Yolanda.
Thank you, Julia.
Yes.
For that introduction. Hello, everyone. Yes, so I am Yolanda McGee, the strategy lead for what we're calling the Liberated Village. And we're gonna just go with you through this open house that we're having today to just let you all learn about the work that we have been doing in 1.0 and how we will be transitioning from all of the learning that we've done into what you all know as 2.0 and continuing the work. So Julie, you can go to the next slide. So we want to take you on a little journey for the next hour. We want you to understand how we've been on a journey for the 3 years and how we've become from awardees to the village. So yeah, so this is our journey, the Liberated Village journey. So one, you will see here, we're going to talk about trauma-informed. And a lot of you all know when we talk about trauma-informed, it's really talking about ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experience. So this is the name that this strategy was given even before I came on board at King County. And so this is the title that we started with. And then we're going to talk about number 2, the power of belief. And then 3, the village. 4, the liberation and healing. And then 5, how we became the collective movement. So just to give you a little history, Best Starts for Kids, the Trauma-Informed Restorative Practices, what we call TIRP, the village strategy. In year 1, we awarded 3-year contracts in 2018. And there were 30 awardees awarded during that time who collectively, well, who were working together to look at trauma and racial trauma and how we would implement this strategy in really the school environment. And we funded 30 organizations, like I said, 25 BIPOC led, 2 schools, 1 school district, and 2 early learning. We included early learning because when I went out and did those listening sessions during that time, I talked to providers in that arena, and they thought it was important to be included because we need to, really address this issue early on. And so we decided to include the early learning, but really our strategy area is 5 to 24. And so again, we partnered the first year with over 55 schools and 10 school districts throughout Martin Luther King County District, implementing anti-racist, trauma-informed, and restorative practices in the school environment and community. So for 1.0, for the RFP, we really wanted the community-based organizations to be able to see themselves in this strategy, to understand that because like I said earlier, the trauma-informed, the name itself, some may think that, there's different skill sets. You would have to be educated in trauma-informed, with a comma behind your name. And so we wanted community organizations and community members to be able to see themselves in this strategy. And so we was very intentional about writing it in a way where you saw yourself. And because again, when we think about the ACEs, your lived experience, I'm sorry, you guys. I, I got this, that your lived experience is just as valuable as having a comma behind your name, right? And that really your ace can become your ace in the hole, and it can really put you at an advantage to win. And so the trauma-informed narrative, we believe from a community perspective, is not always strength-based. You know, it focuses sometimes on what is wrong with the individual and kind of like, let me treat them. It's kind of like an observe, diagnose, and prescribe. That the risk factors for those experiencing high ACEs scores, more likely to experience, that they're saying that they're more likely to experience chronic disease, mental illness, and violence. Well, we didn't want to stop with that narrative. We understood that there's a counter narrative to that not only do we have those who have went through trauma, but we are more than our trauma, and that we wanted scholars to understand that, you know, that they're more than their trauma and there's greatness and brilliance inside of them. So our strategy was really built on a strength-based way of looking at the trauma-informed. So we addressed racial trauma from the beginning, because that's one of the things that's not mentioned when you talk about trauma-informed, is the racial trauma that the institutions really a lot of times inflict on our Black and Brown scholars. So early on, we adopted this phrase called power of belief. The power of belief that I am more than my trauma, that I have ownership of my healing, right? And so I wanted us to be able to use a culture responsive approach that believes that trusted adults could positively impact scholars' lives by supporting them to see beyond their individual trauma, by developing their sense of agency and identifying knowing their identity, their cultural identity, their sense of belonging, and discovering their greatness and brilliance, like I said before. So that's how we coined the power of belief, because we knew that when community heard it in that way, they could see themselves being a part of this strategy. So the village focused on the impact of racial trauma. We became the village thinking about the institutions of systemic trauma and racism. So we knew that in order to impact and dismantle systemic and internalized oppression, we must work together. So early on, we decided that we wanted to be a village. And we wanted to understand, not just to call ourselves a village, but to really understand, what did it look like? What did it feel like? What is it like to really be a village? And so early on, the awardees who were awarded, we started working towards that, understanding how to do this collective work to be able to tell our own story, the counter narrative that the story is being told, like I talked about earlier. So one disclaimer I do want to say, well, before I say that though, Julia's going to talk about the liberation and healing and the collective movement part.
Thanks, Yolanda. Yeah, so to back it up a little bit, the village was a mindset and a way of how we wanted to communicate with one another, meaning us as program managers, but also those who are awardees for the Liberation Healing Group, formerly known as Trauma-Informed Restorative Practices. But we were very intentional about creating learning communities within our awardees so that they could have a pool of resources, a pool of knowledge to lean on one another for information and strategizing. So for instance, many of the cohorts we grouped together based on geography. So if they worked in the same school district, it made sense for us to put them together so that if one community-based organization was experiencing challenges with working with the district staff or school building staff, that they could lean on one another about how to navigate that, how to approach the conversation, how to pitch a new program idea, things like that. And so that's kind of why we built that structure within our program and amongst our awardees. And so the journey to like liberation and healing and the collective movement, as we were kind of like building the plane as we were flying it. We didn't really know what the journey was going to look like. But as we got together as a village, we realized we need to do a lot of healing within ourselves. And so we provided a lot of professional trainings, undoing institutionalized racism workshops. We've done a number of workshops and trainings together to liberate ourselves as leaders in this area. And so from there, we were able to create this collective momentum, this collective movement where we realized, you know, the data that we were collecting to measure success, to measure, you know, how well and all of that, we realized we wanted to do that together. We wanted to make our evaluation and data points as one whole unit. And so instead of other people having many different different like measures for success, we all wanted to see, okay, where was our common ground? How do we move as a collective group, and how do we produce collective impact? And so that's where that's just been the journey of TERP. We've come a really long ways from being coming from trauma informed and being very deficit based to collective movement, liberation, healing, and making it more strength based. So that is the journey. If you didn't get the symbolism of the train, that is what that means.
Yes, thank you, Julia.
Yeah.
So one disclaimer I wanted to make, even with the train analogy, I think Julia used the plane, but the plane. One disclaimer I do want to make is the collective approach was not in the 1.0 awardees contract, right? They at the time were really applying as an individual organization, doing some great work to impact scholars in our community. But like Julia said, we morphed into being a collective movement of really dismantling the white supremacy way of acting as individuals and really understanding the culture, the community culture way of being is a collective approach. And so again, that was not in their contract. So everything they did during those 3 years was really voluntarily based. They volunteered, right? It wasn't something we can really hold them accountable to. So like I said, it was like a train moving and everyone was on that train without knowing the destination, right? And so now in 1.0, the train has stopped and the next train is going to be called 2.0. And we know the destination is liberation and healing from systemic and internalized racism, right? So this time, what we want to really let you all know today is for 2.0, the difference is going to be that you're really going to be opting in to the collective movement with a clear understanding, a dedication, and a commitment to something bigger and larger than oneself or one's organization, right? To achieve a collective, impact. And that's impacting our scholars and our community. So I just wanted to put that out there. So again, our 2.0 RFP, that was our background and how we became the Liberated Village. But now we're talking about 1.0, right? 2.0, how do I see myself in this RFP? Just like we really frame 1.0 for you all to be able to see yourselves, we really want you to be able to see yourselves in 2.0, understanding that we have become a collective movement. Next. So, and I'll say here that during our 3 years with our leaders within the village, we decided to do the name change because we felt that the name was in more alignment with the work that we were doing. And so that's how the name change came about. It's more in alignment with our vision and our mission. Next. So this slide here is the village as a whole has built the foundation on practicing anti-racist principles. So like Julia said, we've done a lot together during these 3 years. And we were blessed to be able to have the People's Institute, for all of us together to go through the People's Institute, undoing institutionalized racism right before the pandemic happened. So it was like a right on time kind of thing. But we all participated in that. And it was important what we learned there is it's important for us to have a race analysis and to understand how to do equity, racial equity work. And so these are the principles that as a collective we live by, right? Undoing racism, learning from history, sharing our culture, learning leadership development, maintaining accountability. That's a big one. Networking, we always talk about we're the net that works, right? And so networking is big. Liberated gatekeepers. We know that we're all in some capacity gatekeepers, but can we look at ourselves as a liberated gatekeeper, right? Going beyond the norm and the status quo. Analyzing power, identifying and analyzing mainstream of racism, and again, undoing institutionalized racism. And again, early on when we talked about we wanted to not just say we're a village, we really wanted to be a village. We adopted these principles called Nguzo Saba from Kwanzaa, a celebration that's done by African Americans during the holiday times, right after Christmas. They have 7 principles that we felt that really spoke to who we are as a people. And we have adopted these to be our norms and how we operate, how we show up. And so just like today, we're talking about the collective work. Well, that is one of the principles, right? It's Ujima, meaning work and responsibility. We're working and we're building our community while solving problems together. In response to the systemic and racial trauma, the Liberation Village works in unity, faith, and purpose. So these we live by as a village. Next. All right, Julia's gonna play a quick video before we dive into this slide.
Okay, so this is a 5-minute video for all of us to watch. I want to ground us in understanding how we got to our vision, how we got to our mission, and why that is so important for us to develop early on and to have that kind of shared vision and mission alignment. So let's see. Give me 1 second. All right. Okay, let me know if the audio is not working well.
How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight, and the Wright brothers beat them to it? There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery, and this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operate in it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat screen TVs. They've been making flat screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. And Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe.
Thank you, Julia. So just to give you a little background, we as a village, we partner with a lot of subject matter experts that's in the community. They helped us with our deep dive evaluation, and they really came into the village and planted seeds. They gave us information that helped build our foundation and really helped us to get to where we are today. And so Dr. Nikam Pond was one of the ones that introduced this golden circle to the village. And so again, just like you just heard, your why, starting with your why, right? How important that is. And that really, when we think about it, and what he's saying is people don't really care about what you do. They care more about why you do what you do, right? And so we were able to really, we as a village, the steering committee, we developed our why statement, a collective why statement. We also developed a collective theory of change, what we're now calling theory of action, because we want to not just be about change, but we want to be about putting it into action, right? And then we also, and from the beginning, we really had the how, the core principles was in the first RFP, and we really continue to move with those same core values that we had. But I just want to read the why because it is very powerful. We see generations of scholars experiencing liberation and healing from systemic racism by living into their true cultural identity, brilliance, and purpose, right? And so, and of course, our mission is we create authentic partnerships to promote culturally responsive practices that inspire the belief in the brilliance of all scholars. And our how is, and I just want to say one more thing about your why. And I heard this before and I love it. There's a saying that if your why don't make you cry, then it's not strong enough, right? And so the why is very important. And this is how we are moving in the village, understanding the importance of a strong why. It connects you to people. And so our core principles are we're developing skills that promote healing. We're focusing on the whole child, fostering collectivism and power, not empowerment, but power. And we're leading with racial justice. And then our what, and again, now a lot of times we'll hear, I've heard it throughout the 3 years, we have 30 organizations and they're all doing something different. Well, we decided to come together and really do a mapping of the different strategies that organizations are doing within their organization. And we came up with a collective theory of change. And we landed with 9, but we're really moving forward with these next 5 into 2.0 because we feel like if we have a smaller number, then we can really digest these and really go deeper in doing our collective work together. And so the 5 that we uplifted and we think is really important is the capacity building, culture, and cultural identity development is, for scholars to really know who they are, we're helping them, and family leadership and engagement, and creating systems. So I instead of saying systems change, I said creating systems and alignment, and then of course youth development and leadership. So like he said, great leaders pursue their why. They hold themselves accountable to the how to do it and what they do, right? So here, we want you all to know that, yeah, the meat kind of what's going to be in the 2.0 RFP. So our ideology, right? Our system of belief. So we're saying LHSIR RFP is seeking partners who want to opt in to doing collective work, using a collective methodology to show evidence of collective impact. And though we started the collective work in 2.0, to be fully transparent, we haven't arrived to really showing evidence of the collective impact. And so we were going to be really focusing on how do we develop the evidence of why we should be working together and doing this work together. And the conditions of collective impact are having, I want you guys to really see this, are having shared vision, shared measurements, mutually reinforcing strategies. I talked about the strategies earlier on the other page, right? Continuous communication, so creating that communication flow, reciprocity, and a strong infrastructure for collective work. So the collective movement, the liberation and healing movement, we will continue to address educational gap rooted in racism that has negatively contributed to our Black and Brown scholars, their ability to succeed. So instead of partners working in isolation, isolated efforts. We want organizations who are willing to want to work together towards community-centered solutions for transformative system change. So some of the 2.0 criteria that we've outlined, and again, this RFP is not complete at this moment, but we wanted to just give you some highlights for now so you can have something to think about after you leave this meeting today, as far as preparing for your responding to the proposal if you decide to apply. So these are some of the criteria we really want to see in applicants who are thinking in this way. So applicants who demonstrate the understanding of their individual why, your organization why, and how it is in alignment with the Liberated Village Collective why. We want applicants to believe that scholars who are more likely to be marginalized can thrive when educators and service providers like yourself believe in scholars' ability to excel and succeed. We want applicants to provide an environment of love and care and uplift and respect their community's culture. We've heard this from scholars, that they know when you care, right? And so that's important. We also want to see applicants that are actively confronting racism and the structures of systemic oppression that penetrates generational trauma. We want applicants to have the ability to support scholars, their identity development, helping them to understand their strong sense of agency, giving them affirmations, the rites of passage that build scholars' confidence, and is shown in the ability to, it is shown by when they're able to be successful and experience success and academic success as well. Applicants that desire to work together is a big one with the Liberated Village members to provide adaptive solutions to meet the needs of our scholars, our families, and our communities, and to support their ability to thrive, right? And experience liberation in school and family, in their school and family lives. And we also want applicants who are willing to build their, business, your organizational business, and work in excellence as an organization and institution. So that working in excellence, that capacity building is really emphasized in the Liberated Village. So Julia's gonna take it away on this slide.
I forgot I was doing this. The reason why we are focusing really strongly on this village mindset as we go into the RFP for 2.0 for liberation and healing, we want applicants to be well connected. We want applicants to understand that there's so much opportunity when developing a scope of work, milestones and deliverables, and many different partnerships. And so what we have listed here are different, categories, definitely not limited to this list, but different areas, subject matters in which we think, organizations are able to include, curriculum about entrepreneurship or technology skill development. One example is one of our organizations who works primarily with East African population. They were able to have a partnership with Microsoft and bring on software engineers and create this Black coders curriculum. And so those are kind of the type of partnerships that will make your application more strong. We want folks to know that you can go into doing healthy living. So another organization, they focused on providing nutrition and healthy cooking. What does that look like? That looks like providing a cooking class for a group of scholars to cook with their parents. It's things that will help make the student feel more connected to who they are, more connected to their environment around them, more connected to their family, potentially more connected to a future career. And so these are just some examples of the different types of curriculums, different types of partnerships that you can have with other folks. It's not just limited to doing, healing circles or doing staff trainings. We really want our applicants to focus on the whole child. How can we build each scholar up to be more well-rounded, to get a better understanding of the world around them, get a better understanding of who they are themselves. And so this is just a quick list. I don't need to name everything, but you guys can take a quick glance at what the different types of opportunities are there to partner up as you guys think about developing your guys' RFP application.
Right. So relationship of engagement, we learned in year one that relationship is very important when it comes to doing this type of work in our community. And so we're just gonna go through the different relationships that we have, the different stakeholders that are involved in the village, and what the commitment of those relationships will look like, to give you an idea.
So this next slide, we're going to be going over eligibility in applying for this grant program. Those who are eligible lead applicants are grassroots organizations, service providers, mentors, trusted adults, community members and leaders, coaches, faith-based organizations, community organizations, parent-led groups, small for-profit BIPOC-led organizations, and homeschool providers. Those who are not eligible will be schools and school districts and early learning. So the reason that those two categories of organizations are not eligible is because for schools and school districts, what we've learned in the last 3 years was that it was much harder for the nonprofit subcontractors of the school-based lead applicants. It was much harder for them to access their dollars. There's a lot more barriers when it comes to doing payments and subcontracts with nonprofit-based organizations. And so we just wanted 2.0 to focus on the CBOs, the parent groups, the faith-based organizations, and all that. And then for early learning, we didn't want to make it eligible because there's actually a lot more funding going into prenatal to 5. So within Best Starts for Kids as a whole, we have prenatal to 5 funding areas, and we also have the 5 to 24 funding areas. And so that's focusing on the different age groups. Prenatal to 5 actually received a larger percentage of increased funding for 2.0. And so we wanted the early learning based organizations to apply to the early learning based RFPs that will be coming out in the next 6 months. This one specifically with Liberation Healing, we're focusing on 5 to 24. So yeah, additional partners to consider, parent and guardian groups, partner with community-based organizations, partnering with subject matter experts, homeschool network K-12, and religious institutions. I also just want to backpedal for a little bit. So this doesn't mean that school districts and early learning can't be a part of the village. Schools and school districts and early learning programs definitely have an opportunity to partner with a lead applicant for this RFP. And so I just wanted to make that clear. Is there anything I missed, Yolanda?
Yeah, no, that was great. Yeah, I just wanted to say lead applicant basically means the one that's applying and that's going to be controlling the dollars, if you will. So thank you for that, Julia.
Yeah. Also, if folks have questions as we're going through this presentation, feel free to drop it in the chat. And at the end, we'll try our best to answer all the questions. If not, we can also reach back out to you guys after this meeting.
All right. Thank you, Julia. So as we're talking about relationships and commitment and the different stakeholders that are within the village, we just wanted to make it very clear of the different commitments that we're looking to see from all stakeholders. So the commitment we've identified this far for the applicants are, make this bigger so I can see. Applicants will show commitment to breaking silos. We've been talking about that a lot, and of that individualism. And you would challenge your own system of belief by creating and sustaining relationships and partnerships with school families and stakeholders. Because again, the partners and stakeholders within the Liberated Village are the scholars, are the families, and are the educators within the schools and community partners as well. So those are the stakeholders. So those are the ones you will be working with in this strategy. We also want applicants to commit to building capacity, building your own capacity, your individual, your organization, and the collective work together, right? We've been over the 3 years learning, unlearning, relearning, and applying a lot of new information. And we just want you to be wanting to be a part of that to make that collective impact. We want applicants who are willing to share their resources in order to maintain the collective vision, collective and responsibility that we talked about, and the co-creating and driving transformative change. And so in those learning cohorts, and in your even, Julia talked about some great ideas that has been coming out of different organizations. What we're saying is we want those great ideas to be spread throughout the village, right? If you have a great idea, then there's more scholars that really need to have that experience. Our parents need to have that experience. So your willingness to be able to share that with the village so that we can have a equal playing field and everybody's able to access being a part of something bigger than yourself, but a village. Next. And other commitments, applicant will commit to working collectively with subject experts. So we found that building your capacity in the areas of program management, finance, operation, and evaluation, and programming is important if our goal is to operate in excellence. So just being willing to be that life learner, right? We also want applicants who want to participate in professional development. And also Best Starts for Kids have learned a lot over these 3 years. And so going into 2.0, we're gonna have opportunities where awardees are gonna be able to be onboarded to really get that training at the beginning when it comes to contract, finance requirements, evaluation, and building those skills as well. So just your willingness to participate in those orientation. Applicants, we want you also to take advantage of the Best Starts for Kids and have a capacity building opportunities where they have a wealth of information and different expertise in so many different areas. We want you to be willing to sign up for those trainings that best, suit your needs and your growth as an organization. Next.
I just want to do a quick time check. So we have about 10 more minutes.
Okay.
Yes.
Scholars commitment, I'll go really quick. We want scholars to commit to being in your program, right? And we're also going to have this year, we want each organization to develop goals with their scholars so that they have goals that they're working on. So we want to measure the impact or the accomplishments of those goals, the outcomes of those goals. So we're going to be looking for that. We want scholars to also be willing to be a part of what we're calling the Liberated Village Brilliant Scholars Academy. So what that look like is we'll have like one workshop or per month, and we want you to be willing to invite your scholars. We want scholars to know that they're more than just being a part of an organization, but they have a whole village. And we want them to build that connection and relationships within the community, them knowing and giving them that power, knowing that they have a village. So that's another commitment. And also we want them to understand at the beginning that there will be the pre and the post surveys just to measure our performance and ways that we can do better and make sure that we're doing the best in serving scholars. The school partners commitment, we're hoping that school partners that want to really partner with this strategy, that they're liberated gatekeepers. I talked about gatekeeping earlier, but that they're liberated gatekeepers, that they understand that they're not doing the work to or for, but they're doing the work with community. We want them to want to have those trusted relationships and be committed to community and the parents. We also want school partners to, for you to, identify a school that you want to work with, but you kind of be the liaison too, to reach out to that school to get one of those staff members that want to act as a liaison with you, so then that they will be in communication, supporting the work and committed to the work that's happening in their school and within their community. And we also will want the school districts to work with you, organizations with the MOUs and the data sharing agreements. And we'll talk more about that if you have questions about that. We need to move on. Parent commitment. This round, we didn't do this the first round. Some of these scholars, parents were not, really signing their scholars to be a part of the organization's program. But this 2.0, we want to make sure that parents are signing their scholars up. Even if you're recruiting scholars and educators within the school is giving you names of scholars who they think would benefit from your program, we still want you to have a relationship and a direct contact with parents. So we want parents to actually opt in to enroll their scholars in your program. We also want applicants to encourage parents to come to biweekly workshops that we're going to be providing for parents as well. And when I say we, I'm talking about the learning and action cohort and also the parents as partners. But we just want you to have that mindset that, they may not be your immediate stakeholder as far as serving the parents, but because you have the relationship with them, we want to help them understand that they're a part of something big as well. Because we did do focus groups with parents, and when they realized that it was something big, like there's a village and they have a wealth of support and information, they got really excited about that. So we want to make sure that you have that mindset that you're sharing this information with your parents, you're building that relationship with your parents, and you're giving them opportunities so they can grow and feel connected to community and others. Take it away.
Okay, so in summary, we went from explaining the name change, the importance of collective work and responsibility, building and maintaining our community, and problem solving together. In our 2.0 RFP, we have approximately $4 million per year for 5.5 years. And then these contracts will be three-year contract periods with a potential to extend for the remaining 2 years or so, given if they're in good standing. And so with that, we're estimating an approximation of 14 to 16 contracts for this round of RFPs, up to $300,000 per year. So meaning a total contract amount of potentially $900,000 for 3 years total. Okay. And then the timeline that we are working with for this RFP, we have a launch date of March 16th. We are doing this RFP open house session now, but For the information sessions that will be happening after the RFP is launched, we'll be going a little bit more nitty gritty, explaining the application, possibly going over the questions, all of that. And then the application will be due on May 6th, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It will go through a review committee for about 5 weeks. And so we'll have a committee made up of community members, youth, potentially council staff, and the children, youth, and adult division committee members. And so that will happen between May 11th through June 17th. Those who are selected, an award will be that will be known on June 23rd. And so we're aware that's a little bit after schools are typically out for the summer. And then we'll have contract negotiations between June and July. And our projection is that the contracts will begin on August 1st in preparation for the next school year. Okay, so we have about a couple minutes left. I don't think we have time for the video, but Yolanda, do you want to explain this part?
Can we just ask if they're okay with the video, like 3 minutes, and then we're happy to stay over to ask questions as well? Is that okay?
Can folks give us a thumbs up if that's something, if you guys have the time for? Awesome. See lots of thumbs ups. Okay.
To be a leader is to understand that you must transcend being good at just functional and analytical or problem-solving tasks. That you must be able to build relationships that enable you to create a fabric of personal contacts that will provide you support, feedback, insight, resources, and information. That's called networking, brothers and sisters. And leaders understand that the alternative to effective networking is simply to fail. That you will not reach a leadership position or you will not succeed at leadership without effective networking skills. That you're going to have to spend more of your time working on cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships with each other and others. There's a Harvard study that says that effective people spend about 14% of their time working on cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships at work, at home, and in the community. But successful people, people at the top rungs of every ladder in America, spend 54% of their time working on cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships. I spend more than 60% of my time working on cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships. And I travel 350,000 miles a year. You're going to have to build 3 kinds of networks, and you're going to have to build them throughout your entire life. I want you to write this down. First, you're going to have to build a personal network. These are your close circle of friends. These are the people that know you, love you, and cheer you on. People who hug you and lift you up. Let's call this your network at home. The second network is you're going to have to build an operational network. These are the people that help you to get specific tasks done in life. Whether it's the team that you're working on at your place of business, the team that you're working on in your church, the team that you're working on in some organization or specific institution that you're a part of. But this is an operational network. It changes through each passage of life. And you're gonna have to work on that network. It's an operational network. Let's call this your network at work. And the third and final network is your strategic network. These are the people that are smarter than you. These are the people that will drag you into the 21st century kicking, screaming, and crying. These are the people that are where you want to be. These are the people that ultimately can be your consultants and mentors and guidance. Let's call that your network in the community. Personal, operational, and strategic. Effective networkers know this. They know that networking looks like this, that somebody is pulling you, and you must always be pulling someone. And the minute you break that connection in either direction, you have a hole in your net. You know what happens when a fisherman gets a hole in his net? The fish get through, and too many holes, and the whole infrastructure of support breaks down. Spend more time working on cultivating, nurturing, and building your relationships.
Last slide. Thank you, everyone. So as we close, we want you to take all this information in, of course. We will definitely be providing the PowerPoint presentation for all those who attended. The recorded version will also probably be available on the Best Start for Kids blog. So of course, we're always getting the information out to our stakeholders. But I thought I'd end this presentation with a question some of you all may have, and that is, where do I go from here, right? And we say that it's called Kuchichakalia. I love saying that. And it really means collective determination, self and collective determination. And so these are some things that you could be asking yourself and thinking about as you walk away from this training on today, this workshop, this open house. Are you willing to go beyond collaboration, to work collectively, to experience that collective impact? And like I said, that evidence of collective impact, which takes a lot of work, takes rolling some sleeves up and really doing some work together. How might your personal and organizational why be connected to the Liberated Village why? Think about the relationship you have, return on relationship, and how they have contributed to you personally, your organization, and the community at large. Think about ways you can partner with others, providing a greater impact for scholars' trajectory, impacting the trajectory in their life. And you can also think about start developing some goals, working together with different community members. And we put SMART goal, but working with on some goals to prepare yourself for the launch that's going to happen in March for the 2.0 RFP. So that is the conclusion of our presentation. I'm not sure, we're going to take a couple of questions. I'll pass it over to Julia.
Oh, Yolanda, you're on mute.
Sorry. Did you hear anything I said?
Just up until the point where you said if we have, if there's any questions.
Oh, okay. And I was just also thanking everyone for taking your time out today, being a part of this open house, and hopefully we gave you some valuable information that's going to help you think about the Liberated Village and our strategy and what it's going to look like in 2.0.
Yep. If your work is focusing on the whole child and whole family, really that's the whole focus of what we are about liberation and healing. And so if you can see yourselves in this presentation and you're grounded in your mission and vision to provide healing and liberation for children and families, then definitely we encourage you to create partnerships outside and to apply. Again, our RFP will launch on March 16th. All right, well, take care, everyone.